When housekeeper Malia Carter finds billionaire Grayson Sinclair's lost dog, she expects nothing in return. But Grayson isn't used to people doing things without a price. As their worlds collide, love begins to bloom. But can it survive? The differences that threaten to pull them apart. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun streamed through the thin curtains of Malia Carter's small apartment. At 25, she had already mastered the art of making the most of what little she had. Her furniture was second-hand, but clean and arranged with care. The walls were decorated with photos of her family and friends, memories that reminded her that life's true riches couldn't be measured in dollars. Malia yawned and stretched, glancing at the clock on her nightstand. It was 5:30 a.m., time to get ready for work. As a cleaning lady at the Ocean View Estates, one of the most exclusive condominiums in the city, she needed to arrive before the wealthy residents started their day. Another day, another dollar, she said to herself as she quickly showered and tied her long dark hair into a practical ponytail. Her uniform was simple, navy blue pants and a light blue shirt with the cleaning company's logo. Nothing fancy, but Malia always made sure it was crisp and clean. Her mother had taught her that no matter what job you did, you should do it with dignity. By 6:15 a.m., Malia was walking through the employee entrance of Ocean View Estates. The contrast between her world and this one always struck her. The marble floors gleamed, the chandeliers sparkled, and even the air smelled expensive. "Morning, Malia," said the security guard, a kind older man named Frank. "Morning, Frank. How's your grandson doing with those math problems?" Frank's face lit up. "Much better. Those tips you gave him really helped." Malia smiled. Before life had led her to cleaning jobs, she'd been a promising student with dreams of becoming a teacher. Those dreams had been put on hold when her mother got sick, forcing her to drop out of college to help pay the medical bills. "Glad to hear it. Tell him I'm proud of him." As Malia went about her morning routine, dusting, vacuuming, polishing, she hummed quietly to herself. The residents rarely noticed her, treating her more like part of the furniture than a person. But that was fine with her. She took pride in her work, in making these luxurious spaces even more beautiful. Around midday, as she was taking her lunch break in the staff room, she heard a commotion outside. "Has anyone seen Max?" "Max!" a woman's voice called out, panic evident in her tone. Curious, Malia stepped out into the hallway to see Mrs. Peterson, one of the older residents, looking distressed. "Is everything okay, Mrs. Peterson?" Malia asked. The woman turned, surprised that someone was actually speaking to her. "Oh, it's Mr. Sinclair's dog. The dog walker just called me in a panic. Apparently Max got away from her at the park. Mr. Sinclair is in London on business, and he'll be devastated if anything happens to that dog." Malia knew of Grayson Sinclair only by reputation. He owned the penthouse apartment and was rarely seen by the staff. When he did appear, he was usually on his phone, barely acknowledging anyone around him, but everyone knew he doted on his golden retriever. "I'm on my lunch break. I can help look," Malia offered. Mrs. Peterson looked relieved. "Would you? That would be so kind. The park is just 2 blocks away." Without hesitation, Malia grabbed her jacket and headed out. The day was overcast, threatening rain, as she jogged to the park. Once there, she saw the frantic dog walker showing a photo of Max to anyone who would stop. "I'm from Ocean View," Malia said, approaching her. "Mrs. Peterson sent me to help. Which way did he go?" The woman pointed toward a wooded area. "He just took off after a squirrel. I've never seen him do that before." Malia spent the next hour calling Max's name, whistling and searching through bushes. The rain had started, a light drizzle that was quickly becoming heavier. Most people had left the park seeking shelter. Malia was about to give up when she heard a whimpering sound coming from under a playground slide. There, shivering and muddy, was a golden retriever with a blue collar that had Max engraved on a silver tag. "Hey, there, buddy," Malia said, softly, crouching down. "Everyone's looking for you." The dog eyed her warily. "It's okay, I'm not going to hurt you," she continued, extending her hand slowly. "I bet you're cold and scared, huh?" After a moment's hesitation, Max crept forward, sniffing her hand. Malia gently stroked his wet fur. That's a good boy. Let's get you home. Max seemed to have hurt his paw, so Malia carefully picked him up. He was heavy, but she managed to carry him the 2 blocks back to the condominium, getting soaked in the process. When she arrived, the dog walker had already left, apparently giving up the search. Mrs. Peterson gasped when she saw Malia carrying the muddy dog. You found him, oh thank goodness. Mr. Sinclair would have had my head if anything happened to Max. He's hurt his paw, I think, Malia explained. And he's pretty scared, Mrs. Peterson frowned. I don't know the first thing about dogs, and I can't leave my apartment. I'm expecting an important delivery. Malia looked at the trembling animal in her arms and made a decision. I can take him to my apartment, just for tonight. I'll bring him back in the morning. Would you? That would be wonderful. I'll call Mr. Sinclair and let him know Max is safe. He's flying back tonight. Changed his trip when he heard Max was missing. So that's how Malia found herself taking a millionaire's dog to her modest 1-bedroom apartment. She dried Max with her best towels, checked his paw, which seemed to be just a minor sprain, and fed him some chicken she'd been saving for her own dinner. Well, Max, this is a far cry from your penthouse, but it's home, she told the dog as he curiously sniffed around her living room. Just for one night, okay? Max responded by jumping onto her couch and curling up, apparently making himself right. At home, Malia laughed and sat beside him, gently stroking his golden fur. You're pretty good company, you know that. Better than most people. That night, Max slept at the foot of her bed, and Malia found herself wondering about the dog's owner. What kind of man was Grayson Sinclair? Someone who loved his dog enough to fly home early when he went missing couldn't be all bad, right? The next morning, Malia woke early as usual. Max's paw seemed much better, and after a quick breakfast, during which she shared her toast with him, she headed back to Ocean View Estates with the dog trotting happily beside her. She had expected to hand Max over to Mrs. Peterson or the building manager, but as she entered through the employee entrance, Frank, the security guard, stopped her. Malia, Mr. Sinclair has been asking about you. He's waiting in the lobby. Malia felt suddenly self-conscious. She was in her uniform, her hair pulled back in its usual ponytail. She hadn't even put on makeup, but there was no time to worry about that as Frank led her and Max to the main lobby. A tall man with dark hair stood with his back to them, talking on his phone. Even from behind, everything about him screamed money, from his perfectly tailored suit to his expensive leather shoes. Mr. Sinclair, Frank called out. She's here. Grayson Sinclair turned around and Malia's breath caught in her throat. He was handsome in a stern, serious way. Sharp cheekbones, piercing blue eyes, and a strong jaw with just a hint of stubble. Those eyes widened slightly when he saw Max, who immediately bounded toward him, barking excitedly. Max! Grayson dropped to one knee, all business forgotten as he embraced his dog. You had me worried sick, buddy. For a moment his face transformed with a smile so genuine that Malia couldn't help but smile too. Then he seemed to remember himself and stood up, his expression becoming guarded once more as he looked at her. You must be Malia, he said, his voice deep and measured. Mrs. Peterson told me you found Max and took care of him. Malia nodded, suddenly feeling out of place. He was hiding under a slide at the park. His paw was hurt, but he seems fine now. Grayson studied her with those intense blue eyes, as if trying to figure her out. You took him to your home? Just for the night. He was scared and wet and... How much? He interrupted. Malia blinked. Excuse me? How much do you want? For finding him, for taking care of him. Malia felt her cheeks flush, not with embarrassment, but with anger. Of course, he thought she expected a reward. Nothing, she said firmly. I didn't help him because I wanted money. I helped him because he needed it. Grayson looked surprised, as if the concept was foreign to him. Everyone wants something. Not me. Not for this. Malia bent down to give Max one last pat on the head. Take care, buddy. Try to stay out of trouble. She straightened up and met Grayson's gaze directly. If you'll excuse me, I need to get to work. Without waiting for a response, Malia turned and walked toward Yomway, the service elevator, her head held high. She could feel his eyes on her back but didn't look back. For the rest of the day, Malia tried to focus on her work. but her mind kept returning to that encounter. The way Grayson Sinclair had immediately assumed she wanted money bothered her, more than it should. Was that how the rich saw the world? As a place where every kindness had a price tag? She was cleaning the mirrors in one of the hallways when she heard a throat clear behind her. Turning, she was startled to find Grayson Sinclair standing there, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Mr. Sinclair," she said, professional but cool. "Is there something you need?" He hesitated, which seemed unusual for a man who probably commanded boardrooms with ease. "I wanted to apologize," he said finally, "for this morning. It was presumptuous of me to assume you wanted a reward." Malia set down her cleaning cloth. "Yes, it was." He smiled slightly, apparently not used to such direct responses. "Max is very important to me. He's more than just a pet." I could tell. "He's a sweet dog." "Yes, well." Grayson seemed at a loss for words, which Malia found oddly satisfying. "I'd like to thank you properly, perhaps dinner?" Now it was Malia's turn to be surprised. "Dinner?" "Yes, as a thank you." Malia studied him suspiciously. Was this some kind of rich man's game? "I don't think that's necessary, Mr. Sinclair." "Grayson, please." "Mr. Sinclair," she repeated firmly. "I appreciate the offer, but I was just doing what anyone would do." He shook his head. "No, they wouldn't. Most people would have left Max in the rain or expected a finder's fee." He paused. "Please, just dinner. Max would want me to properly thank his rescuer." Despite herself, Malia smiled at the mention of the dog. "You're using your dog to convince me? Is it working?" There was something in his eyes now, a glimmer of genuine interest that made her heart skip a beat. But Malia had been down this road before. Rich men sometimes found it amusing to date the help, but it never ended well. "I'm sorry, but no. Thank you for the offer, though." Grayson looked genuinely disappointed. "If you change your mind, I won't, but it's kind of you to ask." He nodded, accepting her rejection with more grace than she'd expected. "Well then, thank you again, Malia. Max and I are both grateful." As he walked away, Malia couldn't help but feel a twinge of regret. There had been something in his eyes, a loneliness that mirrored her own. But she knew better than to mix her world with his. Nothing good could come of it. What she didn't know was that Grayson Sinclair wasn't a man used to hearing the word no. And what she had intended as the end of their interaction, he saw as merely the beginning of a challenge. A week had passed since Malia had rescued Max, and she'd managed to avoid any further encounters with Grayson Sinclair. She stuck to cleaning the lower floors when she knew he would be out, and took her lunch breaks in the staff room instead of the garden where she might run into him. But thoughts of him kept creeping into her mind at unexpected moments. The way his face had softened when he saw Max, the flicker of disappointment in his eyes when she declined his dinner invitation. She told herself it was ridiculous to dwell on these things. Men like Grayson Sinclair didn't genuinely care about women like her. "Earth to Malia," said her friend and co-worker Elena, waving a hand in front of her face. They were eating lunch together in the staff room. "You've been stirring that yogurt for 5 minutes. What's going on with you?" Malia sighed. "Nothing, just tired." Elena raised an eyebrow. "This wouldn't have anything to do with a certain penthouse owner, would it? The whole building is talking about how you rescued his precious dog." "It's not a big deal," Malia insisted. "Anyone would have done the same." "Uh-huh. And anyone would turn down dinner with one of the richest bachelors in the city?" Malia nearly choked on her yogurt. "How did you know about that?" Elena grinned. "Frank from security told me. So it's true? He actually asked you out?" "It wasn't like that. He was just being polite, saying thank you. With dinner at what was probably a 5-star restaurant." Malia shrugged, uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "It doesn't matter. I said no." Eleanor looked at her as if she'd lost her mind. "Are you crazy? Do you know how many women would kill to be in your position?" "Then they're welcome to it," Malia said firmly. "I'm not interested in being some rich man's charity project or entertainment." Elena's expression softened. "This is about David, isn't it?" Malia flinched at the name. David Harrington had been the son of a wealthy family, whose house Malia's mother had cleaned. He'd charmed Malia with promises and expensive gifts, only to discard her when his friends mocked him for dating the maid's daughter. The humiliation still stung years later. "This has nothing to do with him," Malia said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Not all rich men are jerks, you know." "Maybe not. But I'm not willing to find out." Their conversation was interrupted when the staff room door opened, and the building manager, Mr. Collins, poked his head in. "Malia, there you are. There's a situation in the penthouse that requires your attention." Malia frowned. "The penthouse? That's not my assigned floor today." Mr. Collins looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Sinclair specifically asked for you. Something about a mess that needs cleaning," he was quite insistent. Eleanor shot Malia a knowing look, which she pointedly ignored as she stood up. "All right, I'll go up right away." As the elevator ascended to the top floor, Malia's heart raced with a mix of annoyance and curiosity. What game was Grayson Sinclair playing? If this was his way of forcing her to interact with him, it was both childish and inconsiderate. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse foyer, a spacious area with marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city. Malia stepped out cautiously. "Mr. Sinclair?" There was no answer, but she heard barking coming from deeper within the apartment. Following the sound, she found herself in a large, open-concept living room where Max was bouncing around excitedly, his tail wagging as soon as he saw her. "Hey, buddy," she said, bending down to pet him. "Where's your owner?" "Right here." Malia straightened up quickly to find Grayson emerging from what appeared to be a home office. He was dressed more casually today, in dark jeans and a light blue button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. The outfit probably cost more than her monthly rent, but the casual look made him seem more approachable. "Mr. Sinclair," she said, keeping her tone professional. "I was told there was a mess that needed cleaning." He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "There might have been a slight exaggeration there." Malia crossed her arms. "So there's no mess?" "Not exactly." He gestured toward Max. "But he has been miserable all week. I think he misses you." Despite her irritation, Malia felt a smile tugging at her lips as Max nuzzled against her leg. "So you interrupted my lunch break and lied to my manager because your dog is sad?" Grayson shrugged, unapologetic. "It worked, didn't it? You're here." "I'm here because I thought I was doing my job. I'm paid to clean, Mr. Sinclair, not to socialize with residents or their pets." His expression grew more serious. "I know, and I apologize for the deception, but you've turned down every straightforward attempt I've made to talk to you." Malia was taken aback. "Attempts? There was only the one dinner invitation, and the flowers I sent to the staff room, which you apparently returned, and the note I left with Frank, which you never responded to." Malia blinked in confusion. "I never received any flowers or note." Now it was Grayson's turn to look surprised. "You didn't?" "No." They stood in awkward silence as the implications sank in. Someone had intercepted Grayson's attempts to reach out to her. "Well," Grayson said finally, running a hand through his dark hair. "This is embarrassing. I thought you were deliberately ignoring me." Malia's annoyance was fading, replaced by a reluctant amusement. "And your solution was to create a fake cleaning emergency." He smiled. A genuine smile that transformed his serious face and made those blue eyes crinkle at the corners. "Not my proudest moment, I admit," Max barked as, if agreeing, and they both laughed, the tension between them easing. "Since you're here," Grayson said, "would you like something to drink? Coffee? Water?" Malia hesitated. She should return to work. This was inappropriate on so many levels. And yet, coffee would be nice, she heard herself say. Grayson looked pleased. "Great, come with me to the kitchen." The penthouse kitchen was a chef's dream, all gleaming stainless steel appliances and marble countertops. Grayson moved around it with ease, preparing 2 cups of coffee from an expensive-looking machine. "So," he said as he worked, "now that we've established that you haven't been deliberately avoiding me, even though you have—" "I have not," Malia protested, then admitted, "Well, maybe a little." "Why?" he asked, handing her a cup of coffee. Their fingers brushed briefly, sending a surprising jolt of warmth through Malia. She took a sip to buy herself time, surprised by how good the coffee tasted. Because this, she gestured between them, is complicated. I work here, you live here, there's a power imbalance that can't be ignored. Grayson leaned against the counter, considering her words. That's fair, but what if we met somewhere else, neutral territory? For what purpose, Mr. Sinclair? Grayson, please, he insisted, and the purpose would be to get to know each other. Why would you want to get to know me? Malia asked bluntly. His eyes held hers steadily. Because you're the first person I've met in years who doesn't seem impressed or intimidated by my money. Because you helped Max without expecting anything in return. Because every time I see you, you're smiling at someone. Or making their day better, he paused. And because I can't stop thinking about you, which is driving me a little crazy. Malia's heart fluttered traitorously. His words seemed sincere, but she'd been fooled before. I've dated a rich man once, she said quietly. It didn't end well. Grayson's expression softened. I'm sorry to hear that. He sounds like an idiot. That surprised a laugh out of her. He was. Give me a chance to prove I'm not him, Grayson said, his voice gentle but persuasive. One coffee, in public. If you hate it, I'll never bother you again. Malia looked down at Max, who was sitting at her feet, gazing up at her adoringly. You're using your dog again. He's very effective, Grayson said with a grin. Malia sighed, knowing she was probably making a mistake. One coffee, that's it. That's all I'm asking for. The smile that spread across his face was almost boyish in its delight. They arranged to meet at a cafe the following Saturday, and Malia left the penthouse feeling both excited and apprehensive. As she returned to her duties, she couldn't help but wonder who had intercepted Grayson's flowers and note, and why. The answer came later that afternoon when she overheard a conversation in the employee locker room. She had just finished her shift and was about to leave when she heard her name mentioned. Pausing, she listened from behind the row of lockers. Can't believe Malia thinks she has a chance with Grayson Sinclair, a woman was saying. Malia recognized the voice as belonging to Vanessa, another member of the cleaning staff who had never hidden her dislike of Malia. Did you see the flowers? He sent her? Another voice asked. Of course, I made sure they disappeared before she saw them, Vanessa said smugly. And that little note he left with Frank? Same thing. But why? What do you care if he likes her? Because men like him don't seriously date women like us, Vanessa said bitterly. He's just playing with her. And when he's done, she'll be humiliated and probably fired. I'm doing her a favor. Malia had heard enough. She stepped around the lockers, facing Vanessa directly. So it was you. Vanessa's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed defensively. You should be thanking me. For what? Lying, stealing, making decisions about my life without my knowledge or consent? I was protecting you, Vanessa insisted. No, you were being spiteful and jealous, Malia said, her voice leveled despite her anger. And for your information, I can take care of myself. I don't need your protection or your sabotage. Vanessa laughed coldly. Fine, go ahead and fall for his act, but don't come crying to me when it all falls apart. I wouldn't dream of it, Malia said, turning away. She refused to let Vanessa see how much her words had affected her, how they echoed her own doubts. The rest of the week passed in a blur of work and anxiety. By the time Saturday arrived, Malia had changed her mind about meeting Grayson at least a dozen times. But in the end, her curiosity won out over her caution. The cafe was small and cozy, located in a neighborhood far from the luxury of Ocean View Estates. Malia had chosen it deliberately, wanting to see how Grayson would react to a place so different from his usual haunts. She arrived a few minutes early, dressed in her favorite white sundress with a light blue cardigan. Her dark hair was loose around her shoulders, and she'd applied a touch of makeup, not to impress him, she told herself, but to feel confident. To her surprise, Grayson was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. He stood when he saw her, his eyes warming with appreciation. You came, he said, sounding genuinely pleased. I said I would, Malia replied, sliding into the seat across from him. I wasn't sure, he admitted, especially after what happened with Vanessa. Malia raised an eyebrow. You know about that? I had a talk with Frank, who mentioned that he'd given my note to Vanessa to pass along to you. When I confronted her, she admitted everything. You confronted her? Malia felt a flash of concern. I hope you didn't get her fired. Grayson looked surprised by her reaction. No, although I could have. I just wanted to know the truth. Malia nodded, relieved. Despite Vanessa's actions, she wouldn't have wanted to be responsible for someone losing their job. So, Grayson said, changing the subject, tell me about yourself, not work. I want to know who Malia Carter is when she's not cleaning luxury condos. Malia wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, unexpectedly touched by his interest. There's not much to tell. I grew up here, just me and my mom. She was a housekeeper too. And your father? Left when I was a baby. I never knew him. Grayson? Nodded, his expression sympathetic but not pitying, which Malia appreciated. And your mother, is she still... She passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. Malia swallowed the familiar lump in her throat. That's why I dropped out of college. Medical bills, you know. What were you studying? Education. I wanted to be a teacher. She smiled wistfully. I still do someday. I'm saving up to go back. Grayson leaned forward, genuinely interested. What grade would you teach? Elementary. I love that age when kids are still excited, about learning when everything is still magical. As they continued talking, Malia was surprised by how easy it was to open up to Grayson. He listened attentively, asked thoughtful questions, and shared his own stories in return. She learned that despite his wealth, his childhood had been lonely. Raised by nannies while his parents traveled the world, sent to boarding schools where his last name mattered more than who he was as a person. That's why Max is so important. To me, he explained. He doesn't care about my bank account or my family name. He just wants my time and attention. Everyone needs someone like that in their life, Malia agreed softly. Their eyes met and something shifted in the air between them, a recognition of shared loneliness, a tentative connection forming. Before either could speak, Grayson's phone rang. He checked it with an apologetic glance, then frowned. I'm sorry, I have to take this, it's work. As he stepped outside to take the call, Malia found herself watching him through the window. He paced as he talked, his expression serious. This was the businessman she'd heard about, focused, intense, commanding. It was hard to reconcile this version of him with the man who had just spent an hour telling her about his childhood tree, house and his first dog. When he returned, his expression was troubled. I'm really sorry, but I have to go. There's an emergency at the office. On a Saturday, Malia couldn't hide her skepticism. International business. Different time zones, he explained. But I'd really like to see you again. Maybe dinner this time. You can pick the place. Malia hesitated. The coffee had gone better than she'd expected, but dinner felt like a bigger commitment. Then again, Vanessa's warnings echoed in her mind, making her want to prove them wrong. Okay, she said finally. Dinner. The smile that lit up Grayson's face made her heart skip a beat. Great. Is Tuesday good for you? Around 7? Tuesday works. He reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. Thank you, Malia, for giving me a chance. As she watched him leave, Malia wasn't sure what she was getting herself into, but for the first time in years, she was excited to find out. What she didn't know was that across town, Vanessa was meeting with someone who had a vested interest in keeping Grayson Sinclair single and focused on business. Someone who would not be pleased to learn about his growing attachment to a cleaning lady with no connections and no fortune. Someone who would stop at nothing to protect what she considered hers. Malia hummed softly as she arranged her small closet, trying to find something suitable for her dinner with Grayson. The date was still 2 days away, but her nerves had her planning early. Nothing seemed right. Everything was either too casual or would look like she was trying too hard. Her phone rang, interrupting her fashion crisis. It was Elena. So, her friend said without preamble, "How was coffee with Mr. Moneybags?" Malia laughed, falling back onto her bed. Don't call him that. And it was nice. Nice? That's all I get? Come on, Malia, give me details. For there's not much to tell. We talked. He's different than I expected, more normal, you know. He had a lonely childhood and he really loves his dog. Wow, a rich guy with daddy issues. Never heard that one before, Elena said, but her tone was teasing rather than mean. But you must have had a good time if you're seeing him again. Malia sat up, surprised. How did you know that? Vanessa's been telling everyone who'll listen. She's furious, by the way, says you're making a fool of yourself. Malia's good mood dimmed. Of course she is. Did she also tell everyone she stole his flowers and note? No, but that doesn't surprise me. She's always been jealous of you. Jealous? Of me? Why would she be jealous? Elena sighed as if Malia was being deliberately obtuse. Because you're beautiful, smart, and everyone likes you. And now you've caught the eye of the most eligible bachelor in the building. Speaking of which, what are you wearing for your dinner date? I have no idea, Malia admitted. Nothing seems right. I'm coming over tomorrow after work. We'll find something perfect. True to her word, Elena arrived the next evening with a garment bag. Before you say no, just try it on, she insisted, unzipping the bag to reveal a simple but elegant navy blue dress. Elena, I can't. You can and you will. It's my sister's and she said you can borrow it. It'll look amazing with your skin tone. The dress was beautiful, understated enough not to seem like she was trying too hard, but special. Enough for a dinner date. When Malia tried it on, even she had to admit it was perfect. See? Elena said triumphantly. Now he won't be able to take his eyes off you. Malia blushed. That's not what I want, isn't it? Elena raised an eyebrow. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look good for a date, Malia. It doesn't mean you're throwing yourself at him. I know, it's just complicated. Because of David? Malia nodded, sitting on the edge of her bed. Partly, but also because of who Grayson is, who I am. We come from completely different worlds. Elena sat beside her. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe you both need someone from outside your usual circle to shake things up a bit. Malia smiled gratefully at her friend. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just never listened to me, Elena teased, standing up. Now let's talk shoes and jewelry. The night of the date arrived, and Malia was a bundle of nerves. She'd arranged to meet Grayson at a small Italian restaurant she loved. Nothing fancy, but the food was delicious and the atmosphere warm and inviting. She arrived a few minutes early, smoothing down her borrowed dress as she waited outside. The spring evening was mild, with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of nearby flowering trees. Malia. She turned to find Grayson approaching, and her breath caught. He was wearing dark pants and a crisp white shirt with no tie, the top button undone. The casual elegance suited him perfectly. His eyes widened slightly as he took in her appearance. You look beautiful, he said simply, and the sincerity in his voice made her blush. Thank you. You clean pretty well yourself, he smiled, offering his arm. Shall we? The restaurant was busy but not crowded. They were led to a corner table with a small candle flickering between them. After they ordered, Grayson leaned forward, his blue eyes intent on her face. I've been looking forward to this all week, he admitted. Even with your international business emergency, Malia teased. He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. Especially after that, it turned out to be less of an emergency than my CFO claimed. What exactly do you do? Malia realized that despite their long conversation at the cafe, she still knew little about his professional life. Boring stuff, he said, with a self-deprecating smile. I run Sinclair Innovations. We develop technology for renewable energy. Malia's eyes widened. That doesn't sound boring at all. It sounds important. Grayson shrugged. It is important, but talking about profit margins and board meetings isn't exactly exciting dinner conversation. I don't know. It might be a nice change from discussing the best way to remove coffee stains from carpet. He laughed, a warm, genuine sound that made several heads turn in their direction. Fair point. But I'd much rather talk about you. Have you made any progress on your plan to go back to school? Malia was touched that he remembered. Some I've been saving, and I've looked into night classes at the community college. It'll take longer, but it's affordable. And what about scholarships? Have you looked into those? A few, but most of them are for students just out of high school, not returning students in their 20s. Their conversation flowed easily through dinner. moving from education to books they'd both read to movies they loved. Malia found herself relaxing more and more in his company, forgetting about the differences in their social status. As they shared a tiramisu for dessert, Grayson asked, "Would you like to bring Max to the park this weekend? He keeps going to the door of the apartment and whining. I think he misses our walks together." "You know that's emotional manipulation," Malia said, but she was smiling. "Is it working?" "Maybe. What time were you thinking?" "Saturday morning. Around 10? I can do that." As they left the restaurant, Grayson insisted on driving her home despite her protests that she could take the bus. His car was exactly what she'd expected, expensive but not flashy, a luxury sedan in a tasteful dark grey. "I had a really nice time tonight," she said as they pulled up in front of her apartment building. It was a modest complex, nothing like Ocean View Estates, but it was clean and safe. "So did I," Grayson replied softly. There was a moment of silence, heavy with possibility. Then he leaned closer, his hand gently touching her cheek. "May I kiss you goodnight?" Malia's heart raced. She nodded, unable to find her voice. The kiss was gentle, almost tentative at first, then deepening as she responded. His lips were warm and soft against hers, his hand cradling her face as if she were something precious. When they finally pulled apart, Malia felt slightly dizzy. "I'll see you Saturday?" Grayson asked, his voice husky. "Saturday," she confirmed, stepping out of the car. He waited until she was safely inside the building before driving away. Malia leaned against the wall of the small lobby, touching her fingers to her lips. She felt like a teenager after her first date, giddy and full of butterflies. The feeling lasted until she reached her apartment door and found an envelope taped to it. There was no name or address on it. Frowning, she opened it once she was inside. The way. Note inside was brief and chilling. "Stay away from Grayson Sinclair, he's not for someone like you." Malia stared at the note, her hands shaking slightly. Who would do this? Vanessa was the obvious suspect, but how would she know where Malia lived? And would she really go this far? She almost reached for her phone to call Grayson, then stopped herself. What would she say? That someone left her a mean note? It sounded childish, and she didn't want to overreact. Besides, the last thing she wanted was for him to think she was already running to him with problems, as if expecting him to solve them. No, she would handle this herself. She tucked the note into a drawer, trying to push it out of her mind. It was probably just Vanessa being spiteful. It didn't mean anything, but that night Malia found it hard to sleep, the words of the note echoing in her mind. "He's not for someone like you." Wasn't that exactly what she'd been telling herself? At work the next day, Malia kept to herself, avoiding Vanessa and trying not to let the note bother her. She was cleaning one of the communal lounges when she overheard two women talking. Normally, she would have made her presence known, but something about their conversation made her pause. "Saw Grayson Sinclair with some woman at Marino's," one of them was saying. "Carlo told me they looked very cozy." "Well, it was bound to happen eventually," the other replied. "But Victoria won't be happy. You know she's had her sights set on him for years." Victoria Chambers. I thought she was engaged to that French businessman. She was, but they broke it off last month. And now she's back in town, apparently determined to finally become Mrs. Sinclair. Malia recognized the names from the society pages. Victoria Chambers was the daughter of one of the wealthiest families in the city, a socialite known for her beauty and her family's connections. "Poor Grayson," the first woman laughed. "He's been dodging her for years. Remember that charity gala, where she practically threw herself at him? Well, she's going to be even more determined now that Sinclair Innovations is expanding into Europe. The Chambers family has major connections there that could be valuable. So it's a business merger she's after. Business, pleasure, probably both. They've known each other since childhood. Their families have always expected them to end up together eventually." The women moved on, their voices fading, but Malia stood frozen, cloth in hand. The conversation had conjured images of a world she could never be part of. Charity galas, business mergers, old family connections. The kind of world where Grayson belonged, and she didn't. And who was Victoria Chambers? Someone who had known Grayson for years, someone from his own social circle, someone his family approved of, someone who, unlike Malia, wouldn't cause raised eyebrows and whispered gossip when she entered a room on his arm. Malia tried to shake off these thoughts as she finished her work for the day. She was being ridiculous. She'd had one coffee date and one dinner with Grayson. It wasn't like they were in a serious relationship. She had no right to feel jealous or threatened by a woman she'd never even met. Saturday morning arrived bright and clear. Malia dressed in jeans and a simple yellow blouse, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She was determined to put the note and the overheard conversation out of her mind and just enjoy the day with Grayson and Max. When she arrived at the agreed meeting spot in the park, Grayson was already there, wearing casual clothes and looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. Max spotted her first, barking excitedly and straining at his leash. "Someone's happy to see you," Grayson said with a warm smile. Malia knelt down to greet the dog, who covered her face with enthusiastic licks. "I'm happy to see him too." They began walking along the tree-lined path, Max trotting contentedly between them. For a while they just enjoyed the beautiful day, commenting on the spring flowers and the children playing nearby. "Is everything okay?" Grayson asked eventually. "You seem a bit quiet today." Malia hesitated. "I'm fine, just tired from work." He studied her face, not looking convinced. "Are you sure that's all it is?" Something about his gentle concern broke through her resolve to keep her worries to herself. "I found a note on my door the other night, after our date." Grayson stopped walking, his expression sharpening. "What kind of note?" "It said I should stay away from you, that you're not for someone like me." His face darkened with anger. "Who would do something like that?" "I don't know. I thought maybe Vanessa, but I don't think she knows where I live." "This is completely unacceptable," Grayson said, his voice tight. "I'm going to find out who did this." "No, please." Malia touched his arm. "It's probably nothing. Just someone being spiteful. It's harassment, Malia, and it's directed at you because of me." I can't just ignore that. She could see the genuine concern in his eyes, and it touched her deeply. But there was something else she needed to ask. "Grayson, who is Victoria Chambers?" He blinked, clearly surprised by the change of subject. "Victoria? She's an old family friend. Why do you ask?" "I overheard some women talking. They said she's back in town and interested in you." Grayson sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Victoria and I grew up together. Our families are close, and there was always an assumption that we'd end up together. But there's nothing between us, there never has been, at least not on my side." "But she's from your world," Malia said quietly. "She understands it in a way I never could." Grayson took her hand, his eyes serious. "I've spent my entire life in that world, Malia. And do you know what I've found? It's full of people who only care about appearances and connections and what they can get from each other. It's not a world I particularly enjoy, but it's still your world. Maybe. But that doesn't mean I can't step outside it." His voice softened. "Or that I can't invite someone new in." The sincerity in his eyes made Malia's doubts recede. Maybe he was right. Maybe the differences between them didn't have to be obstacles. Their moment was interrupted by Max, who had grown impatient with standing still and gave a sharp bark. They laughed, the tension broken, and continued their walk. As they rounded a bend in the path, Malia noticed a striking woman approaching from the opposite direction. She was tall and slender, with perfectly styled blonde hair and an outfit that screamed money. Even from a distance, her beauty was evident. Beside her, Grayson tensed. "Victoria," he murmured so quietly that Malia almost didn't hear him. The woman's face lit up with recognition as she spotted Grayson. "Gray, what a wonderful coincidence." She quickened her pace, her eyes fixed on him as if Malia wasn't even there. Victoria Chambers was even more beautiful up close. Flawless skin, expertly applied makeup, and clothes that probably cost more than Malia's monthly rent. She embraced Grayson with familiar ease, kissing both his cheeks before turning her attention to Malia. "And who is this?" she asked, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Victoria, this is Malia Carter." "Malia, Victoria Chambers," Grayson introduced. "Them," his voice carefully neutral. "How lovely to meet you," Victoria said, extending a manicured hand. "Are you Gray's new assistant?" Malia felt a flash of irritation at the deliberate misunderstanding. No, I'm not. Malia works at Ocean View Estates, Grayson said, stepping closer to Malia in a subtle show of support. She rescued Max when he got lost in the park a few weeks ago. Victoria's gaze sharpened. Oh, you're the cleaning girl who found his dog. How sweet of you to continue spending time with Max. Her emphasis made it clear she thought Malia was only there for the dog. Before Malia could respond, Victoria linked her arm through Grayson's. Gray, I've been meaning to call you. Daddy is hosting a charity gala next weekend for the Children's Hospital. You simply must come. Everyone will be there and we need Sinclair Innovations as a sponsor. Grayson gently disentangled himself from her grip. I'll have my office look into the sponsorship, Victoria, but I'm not sure about attending. Victoria pouted prettily. But it won't be the same without you. And I was hoping you'd be my escort for the evening. For old time's sake. I already have plans, Grayson said firmly, but please give your father my regards. Victoria's smile faltered slightly. Her eyes flicked to Malia, then back to Grayson. Well, if your plans change, you know how to reach me. She leaned in to kiss his cheek once more. It's so good to have you back in town, Gray. We must catch up properly soon. With a final dismissive glance at Malia, Victoria continued on her way, her heels clicking on the pathway. Sorry about that, Grayson said once she was out of earshot. Victoria can be intense. She's beautiful, Malia said quietly, feeling suddenly very plain in her simple clothes and minimal makeup. She's exactly the type of person I was talking about earlier, Grayson replied. Someone who only cares about appearances and connections. Malia wasn't convinced. She seemed to care about you. She cares about what marrying me would mean for her family's business interests. He touched Malia's cheek gently. Please don't let her bother you, but it was too late for that. Victoria's appearance had brought all of Malia's insecurities rushing back. The note, the whispered conversations, the obvious differences between herself and the kind of woman someone like Grayson Sinclair should be with. I think I should go, she said abruptly. I just remembered I promised to help Elena with something. Grayson frowned, clearly seeing through the excuse. Malia, don't do this. Don't let Victoria chase you away. She's not chasing me away. I really do have plans. Malia forced a smile. I had a nice time, thanks for inviting me. At least let me drive you home. No, thank you. I could use the walk. She bent down to pet Max one last time. Bye, buddy. Be good. Before Grayson could argue. Further, Malia turned and walked away, her heart heavy. She could feel his eyes on her back, but didn't allow herself to look back. She had barely made it out of the park when her phone rang. It was Elena. I need you, her friend said without preamble, her voice shaking. I'm at the hospital. It's my mom. She collapsed and they think it might be a heart attack. I'm on my way, Malia promised immediately. Which hospital? St. Joseph's. I'll be there as soon as I can. As Malia hurried to catch a bus to the hospital, she pushed thoughts of Grayson and Victoria aside. Right now her friend needed her. The complications of her own heart would have to wait. What Malia didn't know was that Victoria Chambers was already making plans that didn't include allowing a cleaning lady to capture the heart of the man she had set her sights on. And she wasn't above using underhanded methods to get what she wanted. I need dirt on Malia Carter, Victoria said into her phone as she watched Grayson walking alone back toward the park entrance, his expression troubled. Everyone has secrets. Find hers. The game was on, and Victoria Chambers always played to win. The waiting room at St. Joseph's Hospital was crowded with anxious families. Malia found Elena sitting alone in a corner, her face pale with worry. How is she? Malia asked, sitting beside her friend and taking her hand. They're still running tests, Elena replied, her voice shaky. The doctor said it might not have been a heart attack after all, maybe just severe angina. But we won't know for sure until they finish all the tests. That's good news, right? If it's not a heart attack. Elena nodded, squeezing Malia's hand gratefully. Yes, but we still don't know what caused it. She's been working so hard lately, taking extra shifts at the hotel. Her voice trailed off. Malia understood all too well. Elena's mother was a housekeeper at a downtown hotel, working long hours to support herself and help Elena with her college tuition. It was a life Malia knew intimately. The constant struggle to make ends meet, the physical toll of cleaning work, the stress of never having quite enough. She's tough, Malia said reassuringly, and she has good doctors taking care of her. I know, I just can't lose her, Malia. She's all I have. Malia wrapped an arm around her friend's shoulders. You're not going to lose her. And you're not alone. You have me, remember? They sat together for hours waiting for news. Malia went to get coffee for them both, made calls to Elena's relatives, and did everything she could to keep her friend's spirits up. It was nearly evening when the doctor finally came out to speak with them. Good news, he said. It wasn't a heart attack. Your mother has a condition called pericarditis, an inflammation of the sac around the heart. It can cause symptoms similar to a heart attack, but it's treatable with medication. Elena sagged with relief. So she's going to be okay? With proper rest and medication, yes, but, the doctor added, his expression serious, she needs to reduce her stress levels and workload. The inflammation was likely triggered by exhaustion and stress. After the doctor left, Elena looked at Malia with worry in her eyes. How is she supposed to reduce her workload? We need the money. One step at a time, Malia advised. Let's just focus on getting her better first. By the time Malia left the hospital, it was dark outside. She checked her phone to find 3 missed calls from Grayson and a text message asking if she was okay. She hesitated, then wrote back, I'm fine. Had a family emergency. Will explain later. His response came almost immediately. Can I help? The simple offer touched her. No, but thank you. Everything's under control now. I'd like to see you tomorrow, if possible. Malia bit her lip, thinking of Victoria and the note and all the reasons why getting involved with Grayson Sinclair was a bad idea. But she also thought of his kindness, the way he looked at her as if she were precious, and how natural it felt to be with him despite their different backgrounds. Okay, she typed, but I can only meet in the afternoon. I'm covering Elena's shift in the morning. I'll pick you up at 3. Take care, Malia. The next morning, Malia arrived at Ocean View Estates earlier than usual to cover for Elena. The work was familiar, changing linens, scrubbing bathrooms, dusting surfaces, but doing both her own assignments and Elena's left her exhausted by midday. She was vacuuming one of the guest suites when she felt someone watching her. Turning around, she found Victoria Chambers standing in the doorway, impeccably dressed in a designer outfit that probably cost more than Malia's monthly rent. So it's true, Victoria said, her voice silky smooth. You really are the cleaning staff. Malia straightened her back, refusing to be intimidated. Yes, I am. Is there something I can help you with, Ms. Chambers? I think we got off on the wrong foot yesterday, Victoria said, stepping into the room. I wanted to come and introduce myself properly. There was something calculated in Victoria's smile that made Malia wary. That's very kind of you, but I'm rather busy at the moment. Oh, this won't take long. Victoria walked around the room, running a finger along a freshly dusted shelf. I just wanted to make sure we understand each other. And what is it that we need to understand? Victoria's smile faded, her eyes turning cold. Grayson Sinclair and I have history. We come from the same world, move in the same circles, understand the same obligations. Whatever little adventure he's having with you, it won't last. Malia felt her cheeks flush with anger. I don't think that's any of your business. Oh, but it is. Victoria stepped closer. Grayson has responsibilities to his family, to his company, to the social position he holds. Do you really think someone like you fits into that world? Do you think his family would ever accept you at their dinner table? That his business associates would respect him with a cleaning lady on his arm? Each word struck Malia like a physical blow because they echoed her own deepest fears. But she refused to let Victoria see how much her words hurt. If Grayson cares about those things, then he's free to make his choice, Malia said, keeping her voice steady. But that's between him and me. Victoria laughed, a cold, dismissive sound. So naive. Let me be clear. Grayson will come to his senses eventually. Men like him always do, but I'd rather not wait for that to happen naturally. Her voice hardened. Stay away from him. I won't ask again. With that, Victoria turned and left, the scent of her expensive perfume lingering in the air. Malia stood frozen, the vacuum cleaner forgotten in her hand. So it had been Victoria who left the note on her door. The direct threat shook her more than she wanted to admit. Not because she feared Victoria personally, but because the woman had articulated all the doubts that had been swirling in Malia's mind since her first interaction with Grayson. By the time her shift ended, Malia was both physically and emotionally exhausted. She had just enough time to go home and shower before Grayson was due to pick her up. Part of her wanted to cancel, to retreat from the complications that came with being involved with someone from his world. But another part, the part that made her heart race when she thought of his smile, refused to be intimidated. When Grayson's car pulled up outside her apartment building at exactly 3 o'clock, Malia was waiting. She had changed into simple jeans and a green blouse that brought out the warm tones of her skin. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, still slightly damp from the shower. Grayson smiled when he saw her, but his expression quickly turned to concern. "You look tired. Rough day?" "I was covering for Elena," Malia explained as she got into the car. "Her mother is in the hospital." "Is she going to be okay?" "Yes, thankfully, but she needs rest and less stress." Malia hesitated, then added, "Which means less work. And that's going to be a problem financially." Grayson nodded thoughtfully as he pulled away from the curb. "Maybe I can help." "Elena wouldn't accept charity," Malia said quickly. "Neither would her mother." "I wasn't thinking of charity," Grayson replied. "Sinclair Innovations has a scholarship program for employees' children. Elena could qualify if her mother worked for us. And as it happens, we're looking to expand our housekeeping staff at the corporate headquarters." Malia looked at him in surprise. "You'd do that for them? You don't even know them." His eyes met hers briefly before returning to the road. "I'd do it for you." The simple statement warmed Malia's heart. This was the man she was falling for, thoughtful, kind, willing to use his resources to help others without making a show of it. "Thank you," she said softly. "That would mean the world to them. Consider it done. I'll make some calls tomorrow." They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Malia noticed they were heading away from the city, toward the coast. "Where are we going?" she asked. "I thought we'd go to the beach," Grayson said. "It's a beautiful day and Max loves the water." "Max is coming?" "He's already there with my housekeeper. I thought—" He glanced at her, suddenly looking uncertain. "I thought it might be nice for the three of us to spend some time together. But if you'd rather do something else—" "No, the beach sounds perfect," Malia assured him. "I love the ocean." The uncertainty in his expression gave way to a smile that made her heart skip. "Good. There's a small cove that's usually pretty quiet. I thought we could have a picnic." An hour later, they were walking barefoot along the shore, Max bounding ahead of them, chasing waves and barking joyfully. The sun was warm on their faces, the breeze carrying the salt scent of the sea. "Thank you for this," Malia said. "It's exactly what I needed after the day I've had." Grayson took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. "Did something happen, besides covering Elena's shift?" Malia hesitated, uncertain whether to tell him about Victoria's visit. She didn't want to seem like she was complaining or trying to turn him against his old friend, but she also didn't want secrets between them. "Victoria came to see me at work," she said finally. Grayson stopped walking, his expression darkening. "What did she want?" "To warn me off, basically. She made it very clear that she doesn't think I belong in your world." His jaw tightened. She had no right to do that. "But was she wrong?" Malia asked quietly. "Your world is nothing like mine, Grayson. I clean homes like yours for a living. I worry about making rent and paying utilities. I shop at discount stores, not designer boutiques. Do you think I care about any of that?" "Maybe not now," Malia said. "But what about when you have to bring me to some fancy charity gala or introduce me to your family? What then?" Grayson turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. "Malia, listen to me. The world I come from, the world of privilege and social expectations, has never made me happy. I've spent my life feeling like an outsider in it, going through the motions because it was expected of me. Until you, I'd resigned myself to a life of just existing, not really living." His blue eyes were intense with emotion. When I'm with you, I feel alive. You see me. Not my money, not my last name, just me. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" Malia felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared that one day you'll wake up and realize that the differences between us are too great, that I'll never fit into your life." "You already fit into my life," Grayson said softly. "You and Max, you're what matters to me. The rest is just details." He cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle. "I'm falling in love with you, Malia Carter. Not with your job or your bank account or what you can do for me. With you, your kindness, your strength, your heart." Malia's breath caught at his declaration. No man had ever spoken to her like this, with such sincerity and emotion. "Victoria will never accept this," she whispered. "Victoria doesn't have to accept it. Neither does anyone else." He smiled slightly. "Besides, Max has already made his choice, and he's an excellent judge of character." As if on cue, Max bounded back to them, dripping wet and carrying a piece of driftwood, which he dropped at Malia's feet with an expectant look. They both laughed, the tension broken. Malia picked up the driftwood and threw it down the beach, watching as Max chased after it with boundless enthusiasm. "I'm falling in love with you too," she said quietly when she turned back to Grayson, "and it terrifies me." He pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "We'll figure it out together, one day at a time. I promise." The sincerity in his voice gave her courage. Maybe he was right. Maybe the differences between their worlds didn't have to keep them apart. Their moment was interrupted by Max returning with the driftwood, but this time accompanied by an unexpected visitor, a small, scruffy dog that seemed to be playing with him. "Where did he come from?" Malia asked, bending down to greet the newcomer. "No idea," Grayson replied, looking around. "I don't see anyone else on the beach." The stray dog was thin but friendly, wagging his tail as Malia stroked his head. "He doesn't have a collar," she noted. "He looks hungry," Grayson said, already reaching for the picnic basket they'd brought. He pulled out a sandwich and tore off, a piece offering it to the dog, who eagerly devoured it. Malia watched as Grayson fed the stray, his face softening with concern for the animal. This was the man she'd come to know, kind, generous, authentic, in a way that had nothing to do with his wealth or status. "What should we do with him?" she asked. Grayson looked up, his expression thoughtful. "Take him home, I guess. Get him checked by a vet. See if he's microchipped. If not, well, Max could use a friend." Malia smiled, her heart full. "Just like that, you'd adopt a stray dog you found on the beach?" "Why not? It worked out pretty well the last time a stray came into my life," he said, his eyes twinkling as he looked at her. "I am not a stray," Malia protested, laughing. "No, but you did rescue something I love." He stood, lifting the small dog into his arms. "And now we can return the favor." The symbolism wasn't lost on Malia. Just as she had rescued Max and now they were rescuing this stray together, Grayson and Malia were rescuing each other in their own ways, from loneliness, from lives half-lived, from the expectations of others. "What should we call him?" she asked as they walked back toward the picnic spot, the small dog now secure in Grayson's arms, while Max trotted happily beside them. "How about Lucky?" Grayson suggested. "Because that's what he is, lucky to have found people who care." "Lucky," Malia repeated, liking the sound of it. "It fits." As they settled on the blanket spread over the sand, the two dogs already becoming friends, Malia felt a sense of peace wash over her. There would be challenges ahead, Victoria's opposition, the differences in their backgrounds, the adjustments they would both need to make. But looking at Grayson now, his face relaxed and happy as he watched the dogs play, she knew that what they had was worth fighting for. "What are you thinking about?" Grayson asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "About how sometimes the best things in life come when you least expect them," Malia replied. "Like a lost dog in the park, or a stray on the beach, or a beautiful woman who sees past all the trappings to the man underneath," Grayson added softly, taking her hand. The sun was beginning to lower toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Max and Lucky chased each other along the water's edge, their playful barks carried away by the sea breeze. "So what happens now?" Malia asked. "Now?" Grayson smiled, pulling her closer. Now we write our own story day by day together." As his lips met hers in a tender kiss, Malia knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. She had rescued Max, and in return she had found not just Grayson's love, but also the courage to believe in herself and in the possibility of a future brighter than she had ever dared to imagine. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she remembered the words her mother had once told her. "Love doesn't care about bank accounts or addresses, mijita. Real love sees the heart, and everything else falls away." For the first time, Malia truly believed it. 3 months later, Eleanor's mother was back at work, not at the hotel where she had worked herself to exhaustion, but at Sinclair Innovations, where the hours were reasonable and the pay was better. Elena had received a scholarship that covered her remaining college expenses, allowing her to focus on her studies without financial worry. Vanessa had been transferred to another building after it was discovered that she had been helping Victoria Chambers gather information about Malia. Victoria herself had eventually given up her pursuit of Grayson when she realized he was serious about Malia, turning her attention to a visiting European businessman who was more impressed by her family connections. As for Malia and Grayson, they were taking things one day at a time. She still worked at Ocean View Estates, though she was now taking night classes to finish her education degree. He still ran Sinclair Innovations, though he had restructured his schedule to make more time for the things that truly mattered. Malia. Max and the newest addition to their family, Lucky. They had faced raised eyebrows and whispered gossip as expected. But they had also found supporters, like Grayson's grandmother, who had declared Malia a breath of fresh air and invited her for weekly tea, and Frank, the security guard, who beamed with pride whenever he saw them together, as if he had somehow been responsible for their meeting. The differences between their worlds remained, but they had built a bridge between them, a bridge made of understanding, compromise, and most importantly, love. On a warm summer evening, Malia stood on the balcony of Grayson's penthouse looking out at the city lights. She felt his arms encircle her from behind, his chin resting gently on her head. "Happy?" he asked. Malia smiled, leaning back against him. "Very." Below them, the city continued its rhythmic pace, cars moving along streets, people walking along sidewalks, lives intersecting in countless ways. Somewhere out there was the park where Max had gotten lost, setting in motion the events that had brought them together. "I love you," Grayson whispered against her hair. "I love you too," Malia replied, turning in his arms to face him. Inside the apartment, Max and Lucky lay curled together on their dog bed, peaceful and content. Outside, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky, and in that moment, with the man she loved and the life they were building together, Malia knew that some things were meant to be, not because of fate or destiny, but because two hearts had been brave enough to take a chance on love. A love that had begun with a rescue, but had become so much more, a mutual saving, a shared journey, a home built not of walls and possessions, but of trust, respect, and the kind of love that made all the differences between them fade away until only what truly mattered remained. The end.